Good morning, viewers. Thank you very much. This is Diaspora Dispatches coming all the way from the Political Command Center and back in Nairobi from United Forces between the Diaspora and the headquarters in Nairobi with Miriam Okutu and I myself, Dr. David Matanga. On the panel will be Daniel Wesonga and others, and right from Abuja, across in Abuja, in the capital city of Nigeria. Today is a day, great day for us to hear Diaspora Dispatches from Abuja, Nigeria, where the leader of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, is being arraigned in court for a hearing, for a trial, and where Buhari regime has added another charge of terrorism. Viewers, we have been on this case for a long time. We were the last people on planet Earth to ever interview the leader of IPOB. We did not know his whereabouts, where he was. He requested us for an interview. And we have been on the forefront fighting for Biafran people for almost 7 years, telling Buhari the straight in his face exactly about the mistreatment of the people of Biafra. We have not hesitated, neither have we been shy in condemning the atrocities committed based on the evidence of videos, live interviews, investigative interviews, pieces brought by our correspondents inside southeastern Nigeria, in Biafra, in Onitsha, in Enugu and other places, all those places where killings, torture, maiming, rape, defilement, rendition has been taking place. Remember the Nigerian situation, and Buhari's background is the chief renditing officer in the whole world. Remember, Buhari rendited 6 Amazonians from Nigeria back to Port Bia to kill them. They were killed. We don't know where they are. Nobody has ever known where they are. Remember, Buhari tried to rendict Umar Diko from a British installation, surely, in Stansted Airport, where Umar Diko was found in a coffin, purported to be a dead body, discovered by MI5 and the Metropolitan Police. That was General Buhari. General Buhari has not changed his colors. General Buhari remains the same Buhari. General Buhari operates outside every norm of law on the planet Earth. It is up to the people of Africa. And at this time, we don't talk as Nigerians, we talk as Africans. When something happens to any African, anywhere on planet Earth, we stand with that African. When something wrong goes wrong on the continent of Africa, we stand by that country and condemn actions of killings, torture, maiming, corruption. We have never been away. We are not part of rogue regime change. We are not part of regimes that are rogue regimes. We are different from our operations. Our operations as a Pan-African speaking station does not involve itself in operations that are clandestine. Our operations are above board. If you can hear me, most of the night, people in Nigeria and in Biafra, you hear me almost every Monday in the village square on your television. Millions, over 60 to 70 millions of you hear me every day. And I condemn actions in Africa across without any remorse. I have no regrets for standing for the people of Africa, the oppressed, those who yearn freedom, those who want freedom. You cannot talk of African unity when some parts of Africa are injured, are bleeding. You cannot talk about a country called Nigeria with a population of 200 million people, which could be serving Africa as an example when it is sinking in Atlantic Ocean. The rate of poverty in Nigeria today, a country over 60 years without electricity, a country where people sleep over water. A BBC documentary recently showed that people sleep on water. A country that has no value for Africa at all. We thought a big population, people in Kenya and Uganda and East Africa would sell their commodity. We have ended up ashamed. We have been ashamed by the leadership of General Buhari. And we have no regrets of telling the world that indeed General Buhari has mishandled the economy of that country, has mishandled the security of that country, has mishandled, killed the value of a presidency. We have no regrets. We have no regrets of telling the world that Boko Haram kills people, maims people, that Nigeria has become a state of kidnappers, a state where people, vigilante groups, bandits, commonly known, come and take people on ransom and hide them, demand money. We have not been shy, and neither shall we be shy and be intimidated. Mr. Buhari, you shall be told the truth, because some of us you beat us by very few years, but we have also been in the same army that you have trained in those institutions of Sandhurst and other places. Mr. Buhari, time has come for you to change Africa. But if you want to change Africa by killing people, it doesn't help you. If you want to change Africa for ignoring Boko Haram, did you form Boko Haram, Mr. Buhari? Are you the owner of Boko Haram? It looks like you promised Nigerians that I will finish Boko Haram in 100 days. Where are your promises? Boko Haram in Maiduguri, north in Nigeria, eats its people, kills its people, has destroyed that country. A country without direction, a country without direction, the center cannot hold. As Chinawa Achebe said, that perhaps we have been away for too long. Obiorika was telling Okonkwo that perhaps we have been away for too long. The Umofia clan has collapsed. A white man, but this time is a black man. Okonkwo was not aware that things had changed. Many Africans are not aware that things have changed in Nigeria. That the leader whom they elected has become a killer of the same people who elected him. Has become a destroyer of the same state that is supposed to safeguard. Has allowed ethnic profiling to take place in Nigeria. He has allowed the Fulani to kill the Igbo. And we shall not keep quiet, ye Buhari. Watch this face. I'm not bothered. Ye, when we meet in the corridors of God, look at us and let God look at both of us. That one day a man rose from East Africa and told you the truth. Buhari, there comes a time when a continent is bigger than yourself. You have let us down. You have let us down. The spirit of Baba Tafawa Balewa is gone. The spirit of Sankara is gone. The spirit of Patrice Lumumba is gone. The spirit of Kwame Nkrumah is gone. Sekou Touré is gone. Benabera is gone. The spirit of Nyerere is gone. That recognized Biafra. The spirit of Myron, late President Obote, who recognized Biafra without shame. I follow the blood that recognizes Biafra. The spirit of Kaunda, who fought very hard to bring Biafra to life, is gone. You have killed us. You have killed the nation. You have destroyed the spirit of Emperor Haile Selassie. You have become the Pol Pot of Africa. The Cambodian model exists in Nigeria. Anybody, any student of international relations and political science will tell you that the Cambodian model does exist in Nigeria, where each one is killing each one, where the state doesn't differentiate from the killer with the killed. A state of corruption that was modeled in Kampuchea, in Cambodia, by Pol Pot to destroy the entire body politic of a nation. We have come, we have seen, we are gonna see, and we shall engage. We shall tell AU, we shall tell African leaders, we shall tell everybody that it is wrong to use terrorism as a weapon to judge people who are seeking one simple thing, freedom. It is wrong for people in Africa, to start watching countries like Ethiopia going down. I've spoken at length on the question of Ethiopia. I have not been shy to condemn Dr. Abiy Ahmed for allowing Ethiopians to be killed under genocide, refusing them to have food. Buhari, the nation, General Babangida was right when he said it was time for Nigeria to be rearranged. Isn't it time, therefore, for the people of Africa to rearrange Nigeria? For the people of the world to tell Nigeria that it is no more. It needs a rearrangement. 100 years of a forceful consolidation has come to a fruitless end. Don't use examples. Don't use scapegoats. You operate a darker source of darker forces that can kidnap people without even states in Africa knowing. Yes, because if you can kidnap Umar Diko from Britain, which has the most powerful nuclear weapons, what can stop you from kidnapping anybody from Nairobi or from Uganda or from Burkina Faso? And you can't tell the world where you got the person. You bring confusion on states that have nothing to do with you. You come and operate unmatched with lots of killings to come and kill people in other places. You export terrorism yourself and you condemn others for being terrorists. My speech today goes down in history of the people of Biafra. That just as we stood firm with you in 1967 and supported Biafra and supported the people of Biafra to self-determination. We want to stand together with you to support you to get your referendum that can decide whether you want to stay in the marriage that has been sour. The marriage of Nigeria, of putting together 7 wives, has become sour. Can Nigeria, like a DRC Congo, be rearranged? Today in East Africa, Uganda is rearranging the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have gone in Congo to rearrange Congo because Congo produces terrorists who come to kill us in Kampala. We don't joke, Mr. Buhari. We don't joke. We people, look at me. We arrange. We have entered Congo. We are dismantling. We are building roads. We are creating infrastructure. Our troops are in Somalia to create law and order. We Ugandans don't fear. We tell you as it is. And I'm telling you, Mr. Buhari, that you have a problem. You better allow the people to express themselves without you policing them, killing them, maiming them, raping them, defiling them, torturing women. There are people in Nigeria who have never gone to school for almost 5 years because they are on the run. You have made their lives very miserable. Miserable, sorry. Today is a great day, therefore. In Nigeria, we are watching. Across the world, the British Empire is watching. I speak with authority that one day they will rise a person that will recognize the presence of Biafra. I speak with authority that one day the people of Biafra will be given freedom to assemble, to associate, to organize at the will once the marriage is sour. Irreconcilable differences are seen between the central government in Abuja and other states. Militias are springing up in every state of Nigeria. Abductions have become the norm of the day in Nigeria. A state of poverty where power has not reached the last part of meter of Nigeria after 60 years. What a country, what a shame. Is this a country that you called one that produces crude oil? A country with crude oil produced, but no petrol in petrol stations. A country where people queue for petrol, when under the two on the roads that they are driving, there's plenty of crude oil. Is that a brain that you can say, this is a country we should model as a beacon of hope for Africa? Ladies and gentlemen and the viewers across the world, it's a great day today. We shall be having our correspondents from Abuja. We shall be having people talking to us. Those who want to join us on this broadcast, we shall be going back to Kenya and back in Lagos. We are a Pan-African organization. In Kenya, there is a test case as to whether we need unity. The same applies to the unity of Nigeria. The same applies that we rearrange. If you can hate each other to the extent of Fulanis killing Biafrans, Yorubas killing each other, Fulanis herdsmen coming to slaughter people with daggers, you have to talk about reconciliation. Can reconciliation work in Nigeria? In Kenya, we are talking about reconciliation. As we speak now, there is a case in the Supreme Court across in Kenya, and Miriam will bring you up to date with that case which is taking place, seeking to make sure that Kenya does not go the Nigerian way. And that is why we brought this topic in the Diaspora Dispatches. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers across, I can see millions and millions of you glued down to hear my voice. Let my message resonate with the truth. Let my message sink down to Buhari. Let my message sink to the people in Maiduguri who are suffering the brunt of terrorist attacks of ISIS. The Boko Haram killing people, cutting people's hands. Let my message go to the leadership of Nigeria, that the entire Africa looks upon you, to look at yourself and help us so that we can have a better Africa tomorrow. Ours is a role to seek you, ye. We ask God to give you salvation. You need it. Buhari, you need it. Leave a legacy when you have given the people of Biafra the freedom. That is my submission from the political command center in Africa. This is Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting live from Abuja, where we shall be having our correspondent who is in the court in Abuja, telling us what are the developments that are taking place. But back in Nairobi, we shall have Miriam Ogoto, our senior news editor. She will be bringing us quite a lot, a background to this conflict. How did we end here? 6 years of hard labor ourselves, voluntarily. We have never asked for $1 from anybody in Biafra in order for us to broadcast, to defend the people of Biafra. Never. And we shall never ask. We shall continue to say what we are worth. We shall continue to say what we stand for. We shall continue to tell Africa that there is a problem in Biafra. We shall continue to say, give Biafrans a chance to decide their destiny. Nigeria is no longer at ease. Obi Okonko, a man who confessed to have been corrupt. In the book, again, of my good friend, Things Fall Apart, who wrote Things Fall Apart, has told you exactly that there is chaos. In no longer at ease is a setting of what Nigeria is today. Corruption, torture, killings, rape is what it is. Thank you very much. Back to you, Miriam. Give us a background to this topic. Thank you.
Very well, Doc. Thank you so much.
I submit, therefore.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for that. So just a bit of some background information and the latest from what we're getting from Nigeria. The Nigerian government has filed fresh charges that border on terrorism against IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. The new charges filed on Monday against the group leader came barely 24 hours before the resumption of his trial. Mr. Kanu is due on court today to answer to charges of treasonable felony and terrorism, which are both punishable by life imprisonment. It is the second time the government will be amending the charges against the leader. In November, he denied the charges leveled against him by the authorities, including terrorism and treason. He was first arrested in 2015 on charges of terrorism, treason, managing unlawful society, and publication of defamatory material. And of course, other charges were illegally possession of firearms and improper importation of goods. The charges have now been increased to include making, threatening, broadcast to intimidate the population, and illegally importing broadcast equipment. Mr. Kanu, who holds a British passport, was brought into Nigeria last year but the government refused to disclose from which country he was repatriated from. His trial and detention has heightened tensions in the southeastern region of Nigeria, where his group has been agitating for a breakaway state. An attempt to secede in 1967 as the Republic of Biafra triggered a 3-year civil war that left more than 1 million people dead. And of course, we shall be waiting to hear from that correspondent from Abuja to let us know the latest as far as this case is concerned there. But that is what we have for right now. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam, for that background. And the case that is changing now, it has changed the face. Because today it means that there is no, if you are talking about the current situation, it means the judges have to go back and readjust with the new rulings, the new cases, the new charges that have been brought. I think let's cross over to our correspondent in Abuja, who is now ready to give us what is taking place in the court, around the court in Abuja. Good morning, sir. Good morning, wherever you are. Galaxy, whoever you are now, you can join in the debate. Yes, sir. We can't see you, but you can speak to us. From Abuja, what is taking place? What do you know? Even if you are joining not from Abuja, can you make any comments? I have made my submission, and it will go down in the history of the world that I made a submission condemning the actions. Yes, there you are. We have our correspondent. How are you, sir? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning in Abuja. I don't know who is going to start first. ITL 56, ITL 856. Can you start, please? Are you outside the court?
Says,
are you outside the court? Who of you is outside the court? One person is either at, you have not put on lights. Yes, there you are. Can you make your comments?
Hold on. For those who are not talking, could you mute your device so that we're able to hear the person who's talking? So who is going first?
Who is going first? Are you the yellow man, the man in yellow outside the court in Abuja? Can you go first?
Are you able to hear us? Yeah.
Are you hearing us?
I think he does not have very good network there. So while he's working on his network, maybe we hear from the other guest.
You can, anybody connecting now can speak. Any contribution that you want to make, Mr. Matingo Ifedayo, can you make your contribution, please? Okay.
Hello.
Right. Hello, okay, yes, go ahead. ITEL 56, go ahead.
I think Matingo Fedayo, I think, was ready there to speak.
Matingo, do you want to speak or you want to watch?
Hello, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Go ahead. Tell us more. I think you are listening to my speech and our speeches and the
Yes.
background that Miriam put
Yes,
forward to you.
I just wake
What
up.
comment do you have?
I just wake up now and saw your program on Facebook. That's why I joined. So
Yes.
I will still speak. Let me stay and watch what is going on before I speak, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
And while you watch, could you mute your device while you're watching?
Mute your device.
Okay. Okay, I will.
Yeah. It looks you are still in Europe. You are still asleep. We have already woken up. Or you are in America.
It's almost midday here. Yes.
Anybody who is ready. Wesonga, take it from here. Tell us more. You have heard my speech. You have heard my opening remarks. I am totally opposed to an Africa which has got chaos. What are your comments?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Masanga, David. And of course, for a long time, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari has let down the people of Nigeria. And just the other day, we were on this particular show, and it came out clearly that Lagos is a city in Africa where we have the highest number of generators, which means that this country lacks electricity. Also, when you look around Nigeria, you see it's like have the biggest slum on top of water, and this country is a country which is very, very rich in oil. Nigeria's oil is the purest oil in the world, and these ought to have given Nigerians enough resources, enough funds to be able to elevate their lives and be able to crush the curse of poverty since they gained their independence in around 1957, but that has not been forthcoming. The other day you shared a photo of the successive Nigerian regimes, which have actually failed Nigerians. These are regimes which could have given Nigerians ways and structures to be able to generate wealth. The people of Nigerians are the people who are the very first in Africa to get education together with Ghana. The people of Nigeria today, if you go even across Europe and America, the best engineers, the best surgeons, the best business people are all from Nigeria. How is it then that we have the best brains coming from Nigeria, but when you go to Nigeria in the streets of Abuja, in the streets of Lagos, we still have people who are living below $1 a day? That is the issue of leadership. It all stems from the issue of leadership. And that tells you that the leadership of Nigeria, whether past or present, has really failed the citizens of Nigeria. But let's come to the present, because these problems are still there, and much more, they have become worse than they were previously, simply because they have been having an absentee president, a president who spends much of his time in hospital in Europe, a president who does not have any slightest regard for human rights. We've seen the other year where we had the EndSARS protest in Nigeria, where a young Nigerian population was being wiped out by Muhammadu Buhari, President Muhammadu Buhari and his Fulani cronies. And that is actually sad, because Dr. Masanga, the youthful population of any country comprises the major percentage of its workforce. So any nation that kills its youthful population, it is a nation which has no business with its future. It is a nation which is actually not prepared to get a vibrant and a progressive future. Because if you are killing people who can work in industries, if you are killing innovative brains, people who can be able to think and innovate things that will be able to turn around the economy, then you are actually robbing yourself of the future to come. And then comes another question of the people of Biafra. Why hasn't President Muhammadu Buhari not allowed a referendum to take place so that the people of Biafra can be able to determine their own sovereignty? These are questions that has been in the minds of the people of Biafra since the early 70s, 60s. And therefore, the successive regimes have been hoodwinking and conning the people of Biafra out of these democratic and human rights question, where they can be able to govern themselves and be able to chart a different path from the rest of Nigeria. I've read a certain book about the states of Africa, and this book actually documents how the African states forged their path forward immediately after independence. And you realize by reading that particular book is that even when the white people were leaving Nigeria, they entrusted the leadership of the countries to the Yorubas and to the people, the Igbo people of Biafra. Why did they entrust the leadership to the people of Biafra? It is because the people of Biafra had shown an exemplary goodwill and expertise to be able to run the affairs of the government, even during the colonial times in the colonial governments. And these were the people who the white people saw they could lead Nigeria into its rightful part of being the African giant, one, in terms of the population, two, in terms of intellectual power, and three, also in terms of its geographical location and also the minerals that are there in Nigeria. But however, we have had crooks who have always come and hijacked the sovereign state of Nigeria, looted it of its resources, and left it for the dead. And that is why today Nigeria is in a very despicable condition. The roads are dilapidated. Education is really in a sorry state, owing to the fact that the infrastructural structures of most educational institutions are in tatters. And also the security of Nigeria is at its worst state right now, owing to the fact that today, as we speak, militias, armed militias could raid a certain region and be able to kill even more than 200 people, like it happened the other week. And the government of the day is just there. And the best they can do is just to witch hunt leaders of the Igbo people like Nnamdi Kanu and focus on things that do not entirely help the people of Nigeria. I think it is high time the people of Nigeria woke up to reality and realize that they have been robbed over and over again by these successive regimes. They are a regime that has killed more people than even Boko Haram and other militia groups. A regime that has killed more dreams of the Nigerian people other than even the colonialists who were there for so many years. You realize that a majority of Nigerian people who are successful are actually out of government, out of the country. Why? Because at home there is no opportunity, and if there is no opportunity, you realize that young people drift into all sorts of negative things that are actually results to them being either arrested by the government or even perhaps going to the streets, where Muhammadu Buhari and his Fulani generals are much willing to fire bullets at them and be able to cut short their young lives. So to me, I believe Nigeria is in a sorry state. Nigeria is a big shame and a letdown to the prosperity, or maybe the dream, the grand dream that Kwame Nkrumah had for Africa when he called for the All-African Conference in Accra, Ghana, where all young men who are very futuristic, young men who are bright and intellectuals at the top cream de la cream of this continent went and gathered and discussed on how to move Africa forward. And Nigeria is not in that position simply because the people of Nigeria are weak or less intelligent or not hardworking. It is because of the leadership. Because one thing I know about Nigerians is because is that they are very aggressive wherever they are. They do business with shrewd mindsets. They are people who go out there and make things happen. They're very innovative and bright. Go to Harvard. You will find a Nigerian don who is very, very well versed with whatever field they do. Go to the to other fields in abroad. You realize that you find Nigerians there working and making money in whatever field that they're actually concentrating on. So it is not the people of Nigeria who have failed Nigeria. It is the leadership of Nigeria over the successive years that has failed the people of Nigeria. And there's no any other time where the people of Nigeria feel let down other than today, where the leadership is under President Muhammadu Buhari. Because unlike any other successive regimes, today it is where most Nigerians are losing their lives through either terrorist and militia groups attacks. And it is at the time where even the living standards of Nigerians have gone to all-time low. It is the time where even the absentee government has neglected even school-going children and other vulnerable members of the society of the Nigerian nation. And I believe it is upon Nigerians to wake up and raise up against this repressive regime of President Muhammadu Buhari and be able to send them packing and elect leaders who will be able to cater for the needs and the interests of the people of Nigeria at large. I submit, Dr. Matsanga.
Thank you very much. Any other person who wants to contribute? Are you ready right now? Mr. Galese, from wherever you are now, are you ready to contribute? If not, Miriam, where did we go wrong in Africa, surely? What happened to our Africa? A huge country with huge resources is gone to waste. Is gone to waste. A country that would be serving the rest of West Africa is gone to waste. It has fragmented itself into portions of disaster. With now the Islamic ISIS coming into the theater to take the entire northern states of Nigeria. Where did we go wrong? What happened to us in Africa? Who bewitched us as Africans? Miriam, try that and we'll see.
Doc, I think it's just a combination of a lot of factors, and of course, one of them being acute poor leadership that we've seen here in the continent, and others are worse than others, and others are just should not even be leaders in any country. Like right now, if you could go by what is happening in Nigeria, the heightened insecurity, the killings, the abduction, whole villages is wiped out, and killings that have continued. And if we could just look at that, then obviously President Muhammadu Buhari has no business still being the president in the country of Nigeria. But that aside, I think Nigeria being the most populous country here in the continent, everything that could go wrong in Nigeria has already gone wrong. And the leadership is not responding effectively to the needs and the cries of the people today. And they've turned a blind ear. They don't want to hear. And yet these problems are not going away. They're asking by Biafrans and other groups to want to secede. These cries will not go away. This agitation will not go away. So I think perhaps it's about time the government of Nigeria sit down and have a very honest and candid conversation over something that happened 50 years ago. That history is very important to the country of Nigeria, and McHugh, as monumental as it is, and the rest of the world perhaps talks about it as we do here every so often on this television station. That is something that is not even spoken about in Nigeria. That part of the history does not make the leadership.
Okay. We lost Miriam there. We lost Miriam. Our viewers, we are just watching. We want to briefly switch on to the, I don't know where we are just watching, waiting for pictures live from Abuja of the trial of Mr. Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, who is on trial. Another new charge was added on other 15 counts of terrorism acts, which is sad. What happened to Africa really? What made Africa look the way it is today? Who killed Africa? Who bewitched Africa? Where's Songa?
I think Dr. Matsanga, on the question of who bewitched Africa, I believe the downfall of so many African states, it is machinations, or maybe by the design of our very own willingness to be able to continue being the stooges and the puppets of the Western powers. You realize that for any African leaders who meets the ultimate end of either himself or herself or their people, these are people who actually are very, very much willing to bend their backs over to the supreme powers, or maybe the supreme interests of the Western powers. And therefore, in doing so, they get the protection from these foreign powers, and power gets into their heads in return because they are having the protection of these Western powers, and therefore they start inflicting brutality upon the same people who elected them into the office and be able to deny them of even basic essentials. You realize that most of the time, these such leaders actually take the resources of this country to the Western powers and be able to sell them and enrich themselves and the interests of their Western paymasters, and forget about the population, the suffering population that actually work and sit on these kind of resources. So to me, the curse of Africa does not come from maybe the African people or maybe the Western powers. It comes from the African leaders who accept to be manipulated and to be used as puppets of the selfish interests of the Western leadership and powers. So if Africa will realize that if we can stand our ground and have leaders who actually insist that Africa should come first, leaders who insist that our resources are not going to leave this continent until we do our own processing those resources, then Africa will not realize its progress. But as it is right now, we still have leaders like Muhammadu Buhari. We still have leaders like Paul Biya, who has ruled Cameroon for over 30 years and whose wife has accumulated so much jewelry and shoes, as most of the people in Cameroon live in abject poverty and all those kind of miserable scenarios, Dr. Matsanga. So I believe the question of who cast Africa, it is the leaders of this continent who have failed the people of Africa. Today, when you see President Muhammadu Buhari hauling and subjecting Nnamdi Kanu to such kind of discrimination and torture, it is because Nnamdi Kanu and the people of Biafra have stood up and have realized whatever is ailing Nigeria, and have realized that if we do not raise up, we shall continue being killed. We shall continue.
Excuse me, Wesonga. We seem to be having our man from our correspondent from Abuja. Are you ready now? My dear brother in yellow, are you hearing us? Yeah, unmute. Unmute the phone.
Unmute the audio.
The audio. Unmute. Yes.
Okay.
Are you hearing us now?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, 100%. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Maybe online. I am calling from Ivory Coast. I am a Biafran by birth and a member of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. I reside here in Ivory Coast. I am not residing here in Ivory Coast because Ivory Coast is better than Nigeria. But I'm residing here because there is no opportunity for us as the Igbo people, as the Biafrans. We are scattered all over the world. And we have somebody today who has come up to see our plight, who wanted to resolve everything politically according to our mode of operations in IPOB. We don't want to enter into arms struggle. It's not that we cannot do it. We Biafrans, everything that we lay our hands upon prosper. If we want to enter into terrorism, we will do it better than the Fulani herdsmen. If we want to enter into armed robbery, we will do it better than the Fulani herdsmen. But we are just trying to avoid spoiling our name because we are well known all over the world. The United States knows about Igbo Biafra. The UK knows about Igbo Biafra. No international community that doesn't know about Igbo Biafrans. But we are just taking it very calmly that we should not cause what will make our people to suffer what they suffer in 1967 to 1970. We don't want that very mistake to repeat again. We don't want to go into armed struggle that will lead to the destruction of killing of our people like they did in 1967, 1970. That is why we are calling upon international community to do the right thing. What is the right thing? What is the wrong about going for referendum? Is referendum a crime? I'm asking Dr. Masanga. Is referendum? Since I was born till the date that Nigeria that there have been a referendum, apart the one they said they had 1963 that give the Midwestern states then a kind of regional government. Up till I am up to 35 years or 40 years old, but I have never heard about anything referendum in Nigeria. I have never participated in referendum in Nigeria. Should I die without participating in referendum? In the country where I am calling you from, Ivory Coast, they have participated 3 referendum in my presence here as a resident. What is wrong about referendum? Can't this very impostor impersonating late Muhammad Buhari call for the national conference and demand and organize a referendum for the people to decide their future? Must we be continue suffering in these very situations because of one single man? They should better release our leader, or else they will see something that they never get to happen in Nigeria. All Nigeria may be born at any moment from now if they refuse to release our leader. Because all of us, we are very angry. We want to return home and build our community. We want to return home and build our Biafra. That's all we are asking about. And we find it as a taking of joy through your Punch television to always present our case to international community. We need it. We need it. So I have to stop here until I hear from I hear from Abuja in the case of our leader Nnamdi Kanu. I will call again. Thank you, Dr. Masanga.
Thank you very much, my dear brother from Ivory Coast. This is a Pan-African station, a Pan-African organization. We stand for Africa. We speak about the evils in Africa. We are not part and a parcel of any rogue regime in Africa. We condemn every rogue regime that comes across in the continent of Africa. We wish Africa a better future. We want our generations to come in future to live peacefully, not Biafrans to live in exile in this diaspora when there is enough land, enough food to eat inside Biafra. It is our duty as people who went to school to make sure that we tell out, we say it out as we have said, and we have no regrets. We have no apologies to make to Mr. Buhari. And the comments that have come is as a result of what he has been doing to the people. If he had been doing good things, nobody would be coming here to comment and condemn him. But because he has been doing very bad things since he came to power, Boko Haram has eaten the whole Nigeria. Fulani herdsmen are walking free with daggers, cutting people to size. So many things, poverty, corruption, the entire Nigerian police was wiped off because of corruption, extortion of money. Surely, a country of that nature, what do you talk about it? What do you say? What can we say? What bewitched us Africans? What killed us Africans? We have resources, but we got to borrow from Europe. Yet we could have utilized these resources to build our Africa. Africa is a country that is a continent that gives out resources, then begs for handouts from Europe. What country is this? What continent is this? Those are some of the issues that made us. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we shall cross over to Kenya. We interact with the court. There is a Supreme Court going on in the Republic of Kenya, where we see something is happening. We come back in 15 minutes when the court in Abuja has started. Right now, production team in Nairobi, switch on to the Supreme Court in Kenya to listen to what arguments. It's the same topic, really. Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta is seeking to make a united Kenya. In Nigeria, it is a different story. Buhari does not want to listen to anybody who wants a referendum. Is a referendum, as my brother from Ivory Coast asked, a crime? It's not, to ask for a referendum is not a crime. Just give the people a referendum and they make their choice. And then if the choice says yes, they go with yes. Thank you. Studio, back to you. Conflicts exist on this continent. One of the most raging conflicts on the continent of Africa is the question of Biafra. From 1965 or before that, the Biafrans had their own institutions. Before the colonial master arrived, they have agitated themselves, they have told the world they want fair treatment in a nation called Nigeria. Successive regimes have always trampled upon the rights of the people of Biafra, destroyed them, killed their younger men, assassinated many, deported many, excluded many, forceful deportation out of your own country. Time has come for the new generation in 2020, 2021, 2022, for people to sit down to find an everlasting solution to the conflict that is around that region. President Buhari promised us that he will finish in 100 days, the first term of office. Boko Haram will be dead. Today is finishing his second term. Boko Haram is even more vibrant than his own shoes. We have landed in very serious murky waters that the people of Nigeria don't know which direction they are going. The people of Nigeria, a big country with a big population, an economic hub of West Africa and Africa, with the biggest reserves of oil, still lingers in poverty. The poverty and the rich gaps in Nigeria are wider than the distance between, Mars and Earth. What can we do for our countries in Africa? How do we unite? For us, our role is to speak, to defend the voiceless, to chart our way forward, to find a solution. The only way solution can be got on the Biafran issue is a referendum, which Buhari and the government president have refused. But sincerely speaking, Nigeria needs rearrangement. If that rearrangement does not come today, tomorrow, or the other day, one day it is going to explode. People can be pushed.
On the basis that this was the law. And my lords, let me remind you of another instance where I have appeared before you with the same problem. You will recall the 2017 presidential election. And you will recall there was the minor KI decision where the Court of Appeal in its wisdom had changed the jurisprudence of voting. And IEBC had changed all its procedures to obey the minor KI decision. Then when we came before you questions arose whether the Minor Kiai decision was actually sound law. But this court came to the conclusion that to the extent that there has to be consistent in jurisprudence, public officials who act on the basis of the law as pronounced by the court cannot thereafter be blamed for such action. The Biwott case remained the jurisprudence available to guide IEBC. It was a judgment in rem on a public law issue, and therefore the High Court, and I want to make this other slight point. Sometimes we lay some premium on what we call the 3-court bench, the 5-court bench. In our jurisprudence, that is about numbers. It has absolutely no juridical value. The judgment of a single judge interpreting the Constitution has the same juridical value as the judgment of 5 judges. That is our submission. And therefore, the way the High Court dismissed and swept away the Biwott case was unprecedented in our jurisprudence and was wrong. And it is therefore our submission that this court be persuaded to the position that the court acted in error. We have referred you, my lords, to the Canadian case of the Supreme Court of Canada, to the English case of Ems versus Queen, and I don't want to go through them because they will just take time. So, what then is my final submission before I call my learned colleague? IEBC was always properly constituted. It had the quorum mandated by the Constitution itself. And there can be no higher law than the Constitution itself. The High Court and the Court of Appeal were in error. The High Court and the Court of Appeal were in error in arriving at a contrary position. And the High Court and the Court of Appeal were in error in disregarding the effect of an existing judgment in rem in a matter of public law. I thank you, and I call my friend Mr. Eric Gumbo.
Good afternoon, my ladies and my lords. My name is Eric Gumbo, and with your permission, I'll take a few of your moments this afternoon to just share a few reflections in relation to 1 or 2 items on the question of the effect of a decision rendered in rem on a public law question. My lords and my ladies, I would want to take a moment to look at how the Court of Appeal addressed the issue that was presented before them. The primary issue being, how should courts of coordinate jurisdiction deal with decisions emanating from within their ranks? In other words, is the doctrine of stare decisis binding horizontally on those courts that exercise coordinate jurisdiction? My ladies and my lords, I would want to perhaps take a moment to look at what the Court of Appeal had to say in relation to this question. So generally, only one judge addressed this issue, which we consider to be very fundamental. Justice Tuyot appears to be the only one who took time to render himself on this question of the effect of a decision rendered Justice Triot then goes on to say, and this is, I think, very important, that inconsistency in pronouncements of courts in the area of public law confuses members of the public as to what the law is and is a recipe for judicial anarchy and mayhem in public law. I think, my lords and my ladies, that really will be the gist of what we'll be looking at this afternoon. Justice Triot, if you permit me, I'll read just one paragraph. Says, the importance of having consistency in application of the law, particularly in matters touching on the public, cannot be minimized. Both the public and the person or bodies charged with carrying out public functions should be able to tell without difficulty, hesitation, whether their actions or conduct passes legal or constitutional muster. To hold that a public body is properly and legally constituted today and to say otherwise the next day may not be good for public administration. So there is much to be gained in legal stability that is brought by stare decisis. My lords and my ladies, permit me to just make a comment to emphasize on how important that issue is. Article 159 of our Constitution makes or invites courts, when exercising judicial authority, to then promote the principles and values of the Constitution. In particular, where then do we find these values in the Constitution? My lords and my ladies, Article 10, specifically, Article 10, Subarticle 2, sets out the importance of the rule of law. Let me then quickly move to Article 259. My lords and my ladies, Article 259 of our Constitution speaks to the manner in which the Constitution is supposed to be construed. It says, my lord, a number of issues that are supposed to be looked at is, one, that the Constitution is supposed to be interpreted in a manner that first promotes the values and the principles of the Constitution. Again, one of the values of the principles of the Constitution is the rule of law. Then secondly, that in construing the Constitution, my lords and my ladies, again, it should be construed in a manner that advances the rule of law. Why then is this important? It is important, my lords and my lady, because when, in fact, we could not even get into discussing the Constitution itself if we don't give credence or prominence to the fact of the rule of law. And so what then is the rule of law? My lords and my ladies, would want to make the submission that the rule of law has certain essential features. One of the fundamental essential features of the rule of law is that it must be stable, it must be clear, and it must be certain. And where it is applied, my lords and my ladies, I would want to add that it must be applied evenly. This, my lords and my ladies, is what has been contained in the principle of certainty of legal certainty in constitutional and even legislative interpretations. My lords and my ladies, what then are we saying of conflicting decisions? There's been finding in, I think, in relation to Section 63 of the Finance Act. The High Court made a finding that that section was declared unconstitutional for being vague. What then do we borrow from this? It means, my lords and my ladies, that if we can interpret an act of parliament for being as being unconstitutional for being vague, what then does it say of conflicting decisions? And examples would be, my lords and my ladies, if today, and there's a live issue, there's a live question on this, there's a question about whether public officers are supposed to resign 6 months before the general election if they want to exercise the Article 38 rights. There's been two conflicting decisions on that issue. One judge says that, oh yes, indeed, you must resign 6 months before the general elections. Yet on the same question, another judge on concurrent jurisdiction says, no, it is not a must for you to resign. So, my lords and my ladies, if this question was to be brought before a public agency like the IEBC, what would be the position in relation to that question? So, it then is our submission that for us to say that we have given credence to the doctrine of the rule of law, then that rule of law must be certain. It must be such that one can be able to determine what the rule is or what the law is at any one point in time. I'll give another example, my lords and my ladies, in relation to Section 42 of the Employment Act and how courts have treated disputes arising from employees who are still on probationary contract. One court says that Section 42 is unconstitutional to the extent that it requires, or rather it denies such employees the opportunity to be given a fair hearing. Another court says, no, there's nothing absolutely unconstitutional in relation to that issue. So I'm using this, my lords and my ladies, just as an example to be able to demonstrate the significance of the fact of the rule of law. My lords and my ladies, that aside, if we don't have consistency on the rule of law, what would we be doing to the question of the doctrine of precedent? What would I be doing to a magistrate sitting in a place like Ortum when I appear before them and I have two decisions? On the one hand, I tell them, in relation to the question that you want to interpret, the High Court has said this. Then my colleague, maybe counterpart appearing on the other side, says, no, in relation to that question, the same court has said this. This really is the gravamen of our argument. We will be submitting later in the course of my submissions that in relation to public law matters, my lords and my ladies, there should be, the doctrine of stare decisis should and must be applied to be binding, at least horizontally. And I'll take a moment to be able to just demonstrate why we take that position. My lords and my ladies, this issue of the constitutional significance is an issue that has also received consideration before yourselves. And I remember, if my memory serves me right, Lady Justice Njoki Ndung'u in Evans Odhiambo Kidero in 2014, versus where, that is Evans Odhiambo Kidero versus Fiden and Waititu, and it's a decision we've cited. In her concurring judgment, she speaks with, in relation to the question of the rule of law and the need for certainty on the question of the rule of law. So my lords and my ladies, that is how important that question is to us. That when Justice Wilfrida Okwany had on the one hand told the IBC that you have the necessary constitutional capacity to discharge your duties, then they were perfectly in order to rely on that decision. And that for purposes of good order and consistency in the law, it was then not available for courts of coordinate jurisdiction to come in and say, no, wait a minute, that first court was wrong on that question. I'll take a few moments to just examine how that then should be dealt with when a court is faced with that situation. My lords and my ladies, I want to revert back to how Justice Francis Tuyot then resolves this controversy. At paragraph 137, Justice Francis Tuyot refers or relies on a persuasive decision from Canada, that is from the Court of Appeal in Canada. That is a decision in R versus Sullivan. We provided that decision as part of a bundle of authorities. And my lords and my ladies, in that decision, the judge of appeal, one of the judges called Judge Pasicchio, then says that in his opinion, the doctrine of stare decisis does not apply any differently, even in public law questions. I'll take then a moment to look at how Justice Francis Tuyot then proposes that we deal with this issue. He says on the one hand at paragraph 37 that even in public law issues based on that reasoning of R versus Sullivan should be applied in the usual manner, meaning that courts are ordinarily not bound, but they need to be reluctant to unsettle the law in relation to a question where there has been a finding, unless there is overwhelming persuasion that they would want to depart from that decision. It then adds on to say that when faced with those sort of situations, the AG and the public body in issue then should be invited to be able to share their comments or their views in relation to that issue. And the most important part is, it then says, if the earlier decision is on appeal, then the latter decision is supposed to await the outcome of the appeal. But that's my ladies, maybe let me share two or so reflections on that question, just as I conclude that question of the effect in rem of a decision in rem. One, we have always applied that decision with the flexibility that courts of concurrent jurisdiction can depart. But what have we seen? We've seen a situation where that reluctance to depart, which Justice Tuyot proposes, in practical sense, has never quite been applied by the judges. And so we have seen a result where, because there's been no reluctance, then we have been seeing conflicting decisions. In any event, then putting, just looking at the decision in R versus Sullivan, Justice Pasicchio himself says that even in Canada, that issue has never quite been settled. And specifically, I'll refer you to paragraph 33 and 36, where he makes reference to another decision, again, of a Court of Appeal in R versus Buttilia, where he says the Court of Appeal in that other decision made a finding that when faced with a public law question, then courts of horizontal jurisdiction, that is coordinate jurisdiction, are supposed to be bound. And so then what then is our proposal as to how this question can be resolved? My lords and my ladies, we propose that this court can examine this issue and make a general proposition or binding proposition that in relation to public law questions, then the stare decisis principle is binding on courts of coordinate jurisdiction. I then ask myself, how then will this be applied in questions or in cases where a judge is persuaded that they need to depart? And in that, my lords and my ladies, I ask that then we look at a possibility of having what I would call a leapfrogged appeal. And a leapfrogged appeal is not a new phenomenon in our legal parlance. My lords and my ladies, we can have a situation where the subsequent court in departing can then first frame the issue, the public law question, rationalize their decision as to why they want to depart, and then have the parties appearing before that court have that matter appealed against to the Supreme Court directly, so that then the Supreme Court can resolve that issue with finality. My lords and my ladies, this is not anything that will be new, because Section 17 of the Supreme Court Act permits for direct appeals to the Supreme Court. And Section 16 then presupposes that one of the conditions that one would need to meet if the court is supposed to, if the Supreme Court is supposed to entertain that issue, is that it must be a question of general public significance. And so nothing stops us. And it is not a unique thing. This has been done in the US, it has been done in the UK, and for the first time, perhaps, my lords and my ladies, we would then want to rely on Article 159 2D, where we say technicalities of procedure in any event should not be a reason why an appropriate and effective remedy should not be proposed or applied by a court. In fact, in the UK, they've gone further to even then have it in the statute book, so that Regulation 6.1 of the House of Lords Practice Directions provides for leapfrog appeals. My lords and my ladies, nothing stops this court from making that binding proposition, so that then we will have a situation where a would either be bound, and if they want to depart, then they would make reference to rationalize their reasons for departing, but have the Supreme Court make a final and binding position in relation to that issue. My lords and my ladies, my time is running. Let me quickly then move to the question of first, just before I get there, what then should have been the appropriate remedies? And this is important, my lords and my ladies. Because the IEBC relied on the decision in Kangwon for the time that it was valid, they made certain very far-reaching decisions. They had the election operations plan, which, my lords, is a very, very significant instrument for purposes of managing elections, particularly the 2022 elections. So if one then was to argue that that document, which they have relied on substantively for carrying out a number of their activities, what then would be the place of the decisions that they've taken? Because you cannot say that they didn't have quorum for purposes of the referendum, but they had quorum for anything else. If we, my lords, do not then circumscribe or protect what was done during the pendency of that position, then even the 2022 elections would be placed in jeopardy. And that, my lords and my ladies, is not a position that the court would want to put, or one would want to have the country in at this point in time. My lords and my ladies, on the question of mandate of the IEBC, in relation to specifically Article 257, my lords and my ladies, it is our submission that Article 257 creates specific actors, and for each of those actors, it creates a specific obligation. Now, in issue today is
Thank you very much, viewers. Viewers across the globe, across Africa, the continent of Africa, and the world at large, in Britain. Those who are watching, because Nnamdi Kanu was a British national, also with a dual nationality. I want to bring to your attention that the government in Abuja, in Nigeria, yeah, here we are. We have, oh my God, he's here. Have you seen him? Captain, good morning. Captain Chikwas Oku, good morning. We are crossing over to Abuja, to our correspondent, Captain Chikwas Onu Ikipe, who has been our investigative correspondent. Good morning, Captain. Unmute the phone. Captain, good morning. Unmute the phone. I want you to, we are ready to broadcast. I'm told that in Abuja, the session has already started. Nnamdi Kanu is already in court. Oh, yes, Captain. Good morning, sir. Unmute, yes. Good morning, Abuja.
A very good morning to you from Abuja, Nigeria. I hope you can hear me.
We hear you properly, 100%. Go ahead.
Okay, we are here on this very day, the 18th day of January 2021, as the court commences trial of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu. Today was before now supposed to have been the commencement of the 3 count charges. However, a few hours before this day, there was an amendment from the 3 count charges that was slated to 15 count charges, which is in no way near to what justice is all about. So this very day, this is the front yard of the Federal High Court. However, as you can see, as all of you can see, there is a huge barricade of security forces ranging from the Department of State Security Services, the Army, the National Army, and as well the Nigerian police. As you can see, there is no way people could access the Federal High Court that's supposed to be a federal and a public place for every citizen to go in and observe any trial, whatever trial that is going in there. So it is also important to let all of you know that there are other journalists out here that are not allowed entry.
Yes.
As you can see, there are other journalists out here that were not allowed entry. However, we are here, all of us, and as well recording whatever that would ensue. Before this time, there was a little chaos, dramatic I must add. A couple of people who gathered to, cheer up in solidarity with the IPOB leader was dispersed. So they are still trying to get themselves together. I also overheard that some people were taken away to unknown destination. But in due course, we shall connect the dots to all of the happenings here today. Thank you very much, Dr. David Matsanga. I stand by for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Captain Chikwasi Anu Okipi, right from Juba, Abuja in Nigeria, outside the federal court, where Nnamdi Kanu has been taken inside the court with new charges that have been brought up against him. The journalists have been stopped. All journalists have not been allowed inside the court. That is the type of democracy that we condemn, where journalists are not allowed to report on the events inside the court. It is sad that a government that claims to be a government with 200 million people, 220 million people population, stopping journalists from doing their work. It goes to tell you, my speech, when I made my speech, Captain Chikwasi, at the beginning of this trial, I said, what bewitched us, Africa? Africa is bewitched. Indeed, the government in Nigeria seems to be having its own way of operation, and it is making people get more tired. And when you make people more tired, the people resort to other means. So these charges of terrorism that have been brought, can you specifically tell us one of the charges? What are the charges exactly that terrorism occurred where? Chikwasa. Captain Chikwasa, what are the charges of terrorism that they are talking about? Captain, our viewers, as you can see, that is Abuja Live. That is the capital city of Nigeria, in the heartland of Nigeria.
Okay, Doctor, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now. Yes, what are the charges, Captain?
My device went digital. Sorry for that. I was trying to unmute myself. Okay, I did hear you very well. As I said before, there are 15 count charges newly amended, and I can tell you these charges, they came barely 24 hours to this very day, and 15 of them apparently are frivolous and trivial. Let me go on, permit me to go on to just enlighten the viewers some of the charges here. Count 1 says that you, Nnamdi Kanu, male, adult of Afaruku Ibeku, Moaha North local government area of Abia State, sometime in 2021, being a member and the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, a proscribed organization did commit an act in furtherance of an act of terrorism against the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria by making a broadcast received and heard in Nigeria within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, which intend to intimidate the population, and you threaten that people will die, the whole world will stand still, and you thereby committed an offense punishable under section 1(2)(b) of the Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act 2013, that's 2013. This is the count 1. And count 2 says that you, Nnamdi Kanu, male, adult of Afaruku Ibeku, Moaha North local government area of Abia State, sometime in 2021 did commit an act in furtherance of an act of terrorism against the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria, made a broadcast received and heard in Nigeria within the jurisdiction of the honorable court with intent to intimidate the population. You issued a threat that anyone who flouted your seat at home should, in quote, write his or her will. As a result, banks, schools, markets, shopping malls, fuel stations domiciled in the eastern states of Nigeria, we are not opened for businesses. Citizens and vehicular movement in the east states of Nigeria, we are grounded within the jurisdiction of this honorable court, and you thereby committed an offense punishable under Section 1(2)(b) of the Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act of 2013. Doctor, I could go on and on. All of these summarily, I must say, is just trivial and frivolous.
They are the same. Captain, they look the same. They have just been changed in a legal manner and doctored here to suit, to look like it is a big thing. It is the same charge, which are fake, because
exactly.
I don't think
exactly the point.
There is any terrorism that has
I
been
could go
committed.
on and on, but
yes,
if they are ambiguous, the ambiguity of these very charges is nothing to write home about. But as you put forward, they are just saying one thing, only if they could provide the evidence. But believe me, they would not. They would not, because if there were evidence or shred of evidence concerning these charges before now, they would have proven it, but they keep running away from their own court. Let us see how it goes, Doctor.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to conclude by telling the viewers that the problem of Nigeria is not judicial, it's not judiciary, it is not anything. The problem of Nigeria is a political problem, a political solution. To sit down, and Buhari must understand that this is a political situation. This is a political solution, not a military, not a rendition, not a judiciary. Don't use the courts to oppress the people who want to say, who want freedom, who want a referendum. The problem of Nigeria is political solution. Nigerians and the Biafrans want a solution. It is not a military might. It is not security agencies beating up people. It is not security agencies renditing people. It is a political solution that Nigeria needs. If it doesn't do a political solution, there will be no state called Nigeria. I can see that Nigeria needs rearrangement. I agree with General Babangida that indeed there is a need for a rearrangement of Nigeria. And that if there is need, let the referendum decide where people can go. And that is what all the Biafrans are asking for. Your comment, your last comment, Chikwasa, before we get somebody else. Anybody who wants to speak on this? Daniel, you are parting short. Yes, Captain. Captain, you are parting short. We want to leave you. We shall come back to you later when.
Okay. Okay. Do not go away. I should say, do not go very far off, because as I told before, a drama ensued, or should I say, prior to getting me on the line. So I would want you to, if possible, do not go away, to stand by and see, and the world to see what is going on, you know, in order not to be watching through the back door. Thank you.
No, we are not going away. We are on the switching. Back in Kenya, there is also a Supreme Court judgment which is supposed to be delivered and which is being heard now. We are switching between the studio in Abuja and the studio. At the moment, the court in Kenya has gone for recess. Therefore, we shall stick with you in Abuja for some time to tell us exactly if there is any ear to the ground from inside the court, what is happening. Well, Captain Chikwasi Onu Ikipe, since you are here now, let me ask you, where did the rain start beating Buhari? Buhari came to power almost 9 years ago. He promised to finish Boko Haram once for all, crush it in 100 days. He hasn't crushed it. Is the army weak? Is the army corrupt? A security agency is part of Boko Haram. Why haven't they crushed with such a huge army, with lots of equipment? Is it the equipment lacking? Why is there turmoil in every region of Nigeria where you go? Bandits are abducting people. You call them bandits. Kidnaps are taking place at night. Killings are taking place. Girls are being abducted from schools. What is going on in that country of yours, Captain?
Well, as a matter of fact, in specification of the Boko Haram you just mentioned, this is a typical example of what one created being bigger than them. You know, it is not unclear what is happening now in Nigeria was ab initio created by this very administration, allow me to say regime, because it is a regime where democracy only exists on paper, as we all can see here. This is a regime because there is no form, any form of freedom, no freedom of movement, no freedom of gathering. As I told you, some people were dispersed here, no freedom of anything. So everything just exists on paper. Now, going back to what I was saying before, this administration, in quotes, or sick, is just, what they created is now bigger than them. They fronted Boko Haram prior to the 2015 general elections, or far back 2011 general elections, presidential elections in Nigeria, when they used Boko Haram as a tool to, jeopardize the former administration of Goodluck Jonathan, president. So now, perhaps all those agreements or pacts they made with the Boko Haram, they could not fulfill it or whatever. I do not know. But it is clearly on record that the president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, was a tool, was an instrument to bring in what is now known as terrorism in the country, state-sponsored terrorism in the country, and it cannot go away anytime soon, so sad to say. So that is what is happening in the country now. And towards making comments towards the kidnapping, the abduction, and the unsafe of children, pupils, and students, all of those things are an escalation of the former. So it is not going away anytime soon, so sad to say. That is it, Doctor.
Thank you very much. It looks like you have, in a nutshell, summarized the situation. Are there any foreign journalists around there also? Are they in big numbers? Have they been denied entry? Foreign journalists, like from Britain, America, CNN, and others, have they also been denied entry?
Well, what happened here, because we were here very early enough, we were here at 9:27 a.m. Kenyan time. That is 7:27 a.m. Nigerian time. But they brought out a list, which they said contains the names of those that were being accredited to enter in the court premises. But if you look clearly, or if you should look clearly in the list, those lists were a crop of journalists that they could control to report what they want to be reported and what not to be reported. So there are other journalists here that were not allowed entry, as you can see here. So a couple of those that we are moved or that we are allowed, we are more or less controlled, what to report and what not to report. That is exactly what is happening here. Even the former Attorney General or former Deputy Attorney General of the United States of America, Bruce Fein, was here with me, for 1 hour or more. before he was allowed to enter the courtroom. So all of this, what we are seeing here, did not start today. It has been occurring for a couple of times, more especially this second time. Nnamdi Kanu, leader of IPOB, was rearrested, or should I say extradited extraordinarily to Nigeria. So as I said, we are going to stand by, also to observing what is happening outside here, and also we'll wait until the attorneys would come over here and talk to us. Thank you very much, Dr. Masanga.
Thank you very much. We shall take a break and come back to you after maybe a few developments have taken place. We take a break and come back to you. Back in Kenya, there's also a break. Let's see. We come back within the next 1 hour. Developments, and you will again join in the way you have joined. And we shall tell us more about what is happening in Abuja. Thank you very much, viewers across the world. Thank you very much. This is a continuation of our broadcast back in Nairobi and in Abuja, where two cases of different dimension. One of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, and two in Kenya, a case seeking to unify Kenya, to have a method where Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, leaves the country united. So you can see Africa at different lenses. One lens is the Biafrans say they don't want, they will never, because there's no government in Nigeria really. It has collapsed. It collapsed a long time ago. Buhari has been in and out. Brother, can you put on your shirt before you come in, please? Yes, and there is always chaos in African countries where you find the military coming in after being fed up with all the civilian rhetoric that we see. In Kenya, the government has appealed to the Supreme Court to give a direction. Do you want to hold elections in Kenya the way the situation is in Kenya? Or do you want to change, unite people in Kenya? Please, brother, put on your shirt before you come on our show. Yes, thank you. Put on your shirt, please. Studio, take out to that gentleman. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, this has been a very lovely morning. This is the afternoon. It's a lovely morning in Abuja. We think there is quite a lot we shall learn when we return in 1 hour from now. This is Diaspora Dispatches from Dr. David Matanga in the Political Command Center. And back, thank you, my panel of Daniel Wesonga and others, Miriam, who was there that went off. God bless you. Thanks.